Welcome back. This week we discuss the January 6th riot hearings, leftists misunderstanding what conservatives want again, and cryptocurrency taking a nosedive. I'm Luke.
And I'm Rhodey.
And this is the Right Side of the Compass podcast. Okay, Rhodey, so how was your weekend?
My weekend was good. It's still going, so we're not done yet.
That's good. Well, we started this weekend off with several big events. We started it off with Pride Month ending, so now we don't have to care about gay people anymore.
Well, what month is this?
It's July. It's not Pride Month.
Thank you. I know that, but what's the month quotation?
I don't know. I don't know what the month is. We haven't dubbed it. It's not Pride Year yet, so it is nothing according to the left. So we left the holy month of Pride, and now we are in July. So that was a nice way to start off the weekend. And then, for those Canadians who watch us, it was Canada Day on July 1st. It was Canada Day. Canada being, of course, America's hat and Washington's greatest mistake. But this Monday is the most important holiday in all of America, July 4th.
Yeah, good old July 4th.
Yep. And as a famous philosopher once said, history started on July 4th, 1776. Everything else before that was a mistake. So
who said that?
That was Ron Swanson.
Oh, okay.
That's the most classic Ron Swanson thing you could say.
Yeah.
So we hope you are having a great July 4th. Since this is being recorded on Sunday, we're actually recording it on July 3rd, so it will be out, God willing, by July 4th. So if you have nothing else going on when you're grilling those Franks on the, barbecue or whatever, and you got the hamburgers and you got the whatever it is you want to do on that grill, remember to be blasting Right Side of the Compass podcast, the July 4th edition.
Blasting. Don't just play. You got to blast it.
You got to blast it. Let everyone else know. Speaking of letting everyone else know, we do want to continue providing content for you, dear listener, and we want to expand our content eventually, maybe have more episodes per week, have different types of episodes, maybe get more hosts, things like that. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, of course, but we can't do that without your help. So if you like our content, be sure to like the video. Be sure to share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. In addition, you can also hit the notification bell to be notified of our latest uploads. If you don't like using YouTube, we also use other platforms such as Spotify, Apple, Google, so you can find us there as well. Anywhere where you can find your favorite podcasts, rather. If you want to reach out to us, you're free to comment on the video, and we will see it and we'll comment back. Or you're free to reach out to us in our DMs at the Right Side of the Compass on Instagram, and we'll be sure to respond to those DMs that you so assiduously slid into. Is that the word you're supposed to use? Assiduously? I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not an English major. I barely speak English. I only speak American. Anyways. So, yeah, we put a lot of effort into this episode, so we hope you enjoy. Anyways, let's talk about our first topic of the day, which is Grand Trump Auto.
The what? What do you call it?
Grand Trump Auto.
Grand Trump Auto. That's very funny.
Yeah, well.
ETA.
Well, am I wrong, Rhodey? Am I wrong?
Are you wrong? Very clever play on words.
Exactly. I don't know if someone else did this, but I don't remember seeing it, or I remember seeing alternatives to it, but I don't remember seeing Grand Trump Auto, so I take full credit for it. So that's now trademarked. If anyone wants to make a game about, Trump stealing cars, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
That would be.
You'll have to talk to our lawyers.
Exactly. And our lawyers, by the way, are very Jewish. So. They're not just Jewish, they're very Jewish.
Yeah, so look out.
Exactly. Anyways, but let's get talking about the subject at hand, which is, broadly speaking, the January 6th hearings, and more specifically about the very weird claim that Trump assaulted a Secret Service agent in order to commandeer the presidential limousine so that he can join his supporters. Very, very funny claim. Anyways, so the January 6th hearings started to a collective yawn. the mainstream liberal left wants you to believe that everyone cares about the January 6th hearings. The reality is no one cares. No one cares. And we know this because the Daily Wire reported that CBS, they reported several things. They reported that 20 million people tuned in to see the January 6th hearings. It sounds like a lot, but the reality, it is a lot. But remember, compared to other things, it's actually not that much.
Okay. I mean, I guess you would say what's the average for other things?
So from what I understand, if you go to the Daily Wire article about the January 6th committee hearings, or rather, let me see where to find it. I have it here. So this is an article by the Daily Wire, and I thought the Daily Wire actually did incredible coverage on January 6th. The world is watching. January 6th hearings committee chairman boasts Americans' ratings disagree. So basically, this is where they talk about there's the Nielsen ratings. According to preliminary ratings figures from Nielsen, the world might have been watching, but Americans had better things to do. The New York Times tried to hype the number of people watching the hearings by writing breathlessly, an audience of at least 20 million people watched the first primetime hearings of the House Select Committee's investigation into the January 6th attack on Thursday night, according to Nielsen. But as the Federalist pointed out, that wasn't much to brag about. According to preliminary ratings figures from Nielsen published by the New York Times, more than 19 million tuned in for what was anticipated to be a blockbuster event. While 19 million may seem high at first glance, a look at what cable and broadcast networks typically pull for an average evening reveals Thursday's viewership as little to brag about, especially when all but one Fox News aired the live stream. So this is 20 million people across pretty much all the mainstream cable networks.
Oh, so this is a cumulative rating.
Yeah, it's cumulative.
It's not just like one place.
Right. So the three major networks, CBS, NBC, and ABC, pulled in a total of 11 million viewers. But Adweek noted for the week of May 30th that those networks' evening programs collectively averaged 7 million more viewers than the number on Thursday night.
I mean, how many days has this hearing been going on for?
It's been going on, let me see, it's been going on since the middle of June.
But like, really, I remember watching it like the first day, some of it, and it was super boring. Okay,
because I don't think anyone really cares. I think everyone kind of knows implicitly this is really just a. I
mean, it was also just repetitive. It was just bashing Trump again and again and again. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. It's just like, shut up.
It's amazing. Trump hasn't been in the White House for already 2 years now. Well, what is how many?
And they're still talking about him
because you know what it is. The more they talk about Trump, the less they talk about Biden.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, though Thursday night figures pale next to the presidential debates, 63 million to 73 million, or this year's State of the Union address, 38 million, is still much larger than the audience that would normally watch a daytime congressional hearing. So, basically, what they're saying is that more people were watching when it wasn't the January 6th hearing than if there were. But this is, I think, the most interesting thing, and this is the next point that I brought up. The Washington Free Beacon pointed out that CBS might have done better had they not bumped a Young Sheldon rerun from its 8 p.m. primetime slot in order to broadcast the hearings. The decision backfired. Just 3.24 million people watched the network's Capitol Assault hearings coverage on Thursday night, according to the TV Ratings Guide. Exactly 1 week prior, 3.86 million people tuned into CBS to watch a Young Sheldon rerun, meaning an old episode of the coming-of-age sitcom garnered roughly 600,000 more viewers than the inaugural hearing.
I mean, yeah, it depends what the channels, what their goals are. I mean, obviously, people would rather watch Young Sheldon than this.
Which is interesting because I would never watch Young Sheldon. I think it's one of the most
But if you had to choose,
if I had to choose, I'd probably watch Young Sheldon.
Exactly.
Only because they're not openly dismissing, like they're not like openly just saying we hate Trump. They're saying it implicitly.
But also, in the end of the day, it's a business, and you want more eyes, and you're gonna give the better time slots with the most eyes to things that are more interesting.
But that's the thing. If that were the case, then why would they show the Capitol Assault hearings rather than Young Sheldon? Because it's not. Listen, the reality is that this isn't a business in the traditional sense of a business. This is a business that is propped up by the liberal elite. That it's a business that serves to boost other businesses and boost government, right? So it doesn't matter if CBS takes a loss, because the reality is that it's not about how much money CBS makes. It's about how much control the establishment has over the narrative. That's why they're not making smart business decisions, and that's how you know the press at CBS and ABC and NBC, they're not free press. Because if they were free press, they would be talking about the things people want to hear about, and they would be more even handed with their coverage, and they would do things that would garner more viewers. But they're not doing that. They're a propaganda network first and foremost. Anyways, but that's enough from the article. If you want to read the article, you could do so on the Daily Wire. It's a perfectly fine article. But I want to talk about specifically one of the claims made by a former White House aide. I believe her name is Cassidy Hutchinson, right?
Okay.
So Cassidy Hutchinson's attorney. Well, let's go over the claim. Miss Hutchinson essentially said that Trump assaulted when he heard about the Capitol riot. He essentially assaulted Secret Service agents and then tried to commandeer the limousine.
Yeah.
I mean, why is it that when people accuse Trump of doing something bad, it's still kind of cool?
Also, I mean, I don't know. Can you imagine him doing that?
That's the thing. I almost can, not because I think that actually happened, but I could see Trump kind of be like, "You, sir, are not doing a good job being my Secret Service agent. I want to see my supporters. Get out of the way. I'm going to punch you now."
Get out of the way.
And then he punches the Secret Service agent and he commandeers, "Get in the car, loser. We're going to make America great again." That's almost cooler than anything. Because when Biden is so-called doing the right thing, he's kind of lame. He's kind of boring. It's almost how do I even explain it? When Biden was murmuring about this guy Corn Pop and whatever, and it's what are you talking about? But when the left accuses Trump of doing something, it's always these white collar crimes, or it's always yeah, it always makes Trump look cool on some level. Yeah, you probably shouldn't do what the left is accusing Trump of, but at the same time, wouldn't it be cool if Trump did actually assault a Secret Service agent? Wouldn't that be kind of cool?
I mean, I wouldn't say assault, but I mean, just taking over the limousine for himself is just cool enough. It's
yeah,
'cause
imagine
what president would do that?
what other president would. I would only believe that because Trump is the type of guy who would want to be with his supporters. But we all know that's not what happened. Anyone who paid attention to what was actually going on knows that Trump was not doing that. But obviously, that wasn't good enough, because the reality is that she made these claims in front of a Senate hearing, and so a lot of people felt the need to correct the record. So the United States Secret Service, the USSS, told the Daily Wire on Wednesday that they were not contacted by the committee about Hutchinson's claims before the committee aired them as a blockbuster special. You would think that if there was some if you think there was some sort of truth to it, then maybe the committee would go reach out to the Secret Service, see if it was true or not true, whatever. But this is not what's going on, and it's just a very ridiculous claim. And of course, the internet has taken by storm, kind of making fun of it and saying. And kind of making fun of the claim, for one, because it actually would be very difficult for Trump to take over the limousine from the back of the limousine. Because I don't know if you know this, but limousines typically they have a big divide between the driver's seat
Yeah,
and
I
the
was
back.
also thinking that he's probably all the way in the back, and like you said, there's probably a divider in between
And
the
not only
driver.
that, there's actually an even heavier duty divider in the presidential limousine.
Well, don't they call his limousine the Beast or something? It's rocket proof.
Yeah, so essentially, Trump would not have been able. I don't ever want to say that Trump wouldn't have been able to do something, because Trump would somehow find a way to prove me wrong.
Unless he was sitting in the front next to the driver.
But that's not where the
There's
president would sit. That would be a very odd thing.
Or unless he literally stopped the car and got out and then went to the driver. That's the only two ways he could have.
But that wasn't what happened, and we all know, based on the testimony that was given and everyone kind of tearing her apart over it, that this isn't what actually happened. And she was kind of just trying to get her 15 minutes of fame, and so everyone's now kind of making fun of her for it, which just goes to show you don't do something that silly. Yeah, they're trying to make this bigger than it is, but the reality is it's not going to be big because no one believes for 1 second that Trump could have hijacked the presidential limo. It's just it's not a thing that would have happened. Anyways, but that's enough about this topic. I want to get to the next topic. And the next topic's kind of big, so be prepared. But this one is America's women become based. And essentially, I want to talk about a couple of different topics about abortion, just to, because in honor of Roe v. Wade getting, axed, as it were, I want to talk about a couple of different things. First of all, I want to talk about the response of, the left to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. On Twitter, as a result of Roe v. Wade being overturned, and just in case anyone wasn't paying attention, Roe v. Wade was a landmark case that essentially codified into American law the right to an abortion of some kind. I don't know what that means. But essentially, as a result of overturning Roe v. Wade, a lot of leftists on Twitter were saying #sex strike, which means that a lot of these leftist women were saying,
Sure, a lot of those are not bots.
I don't know. That's not even the point. The point is that there were leftist women saying, "Oh, we're gonna have a sex strike," and this demonstrates that the left really does not know what the right wants, right? Because as you can imagine, well, first of all, as you can imagine, a lot of these women who are saying sex strike are not the type of women you expect to be like being in high demand.
Yeah, I guess you're saying like, oh, you wouldn't want to sleep with them anyways.
Yeah, many of them are like ugly and fat, and they have like weird colored hair, and not exactly like the object of my desires. Like I wouldn't exactly like if I spent the night with one of those land whales, I wouldn't be bragging about it to my buddies the next day.
Land whales.
Well, that's the definition of a feminist. The land whale. No, just kidding. That's not nice. That's not nice. That's not nice to whales. What am I saying? That's not nice.
Oh God.
I know. I'm so mean.
Oh, Luke. You're gonna get us canceled.
Well, we weren't already canceled. Rhodey, it's not fair for me to say this because you and I both know that I am not in a position right now to say anything about feminism or feminists or whatever. So, well, without getting into details, we'll just leave it at that. So I should probably take back some of what I said because of what happened in my personal life recently. But those who know, he who knows, but no one knows, as it were, what happened. So we're gonna leave it alone, as it were. Anyways, conservatives were like, your terms are acceptable, and if you understand what's going on, right? I don't have to.
Yeah, well, they're having a sex strike. They're like, well, if we can have abortion, let's, boycott sex. I don't know.
Right, but isn't that what like women used to do in the olden days? They used to say like, "Oh,
they still do." At least what I've heard from married couples, women still do.
No. What I mean is more broadly, like in the olden days, it was expected that a woman would be very picky about who she chose to sleep with.
Oh, you mean like, they would only have sex once they got married,
or like even if they didn't wait till marriage, exactly, they would at least be more discerning with who they slept with, even if they weren't exactly like virgins when they went down the aisle. Like there was a certain expectation that like you would not be a trollop, and you would go and you would save yourself for someone special. You wouldn't. Like nowadays, like women behave a lot like men, where they go to the bar and they find a guy and they just like spend the night with him, and then they go to the next guy. But that's how men behave. That's typically how men behave because they lack the consequences of from sex that females do. But once women, had access to abortion as birth control, and also other forms of birth control, and also the culture kind of getting destroyed. So a lot of women, they started having a lot more promiscuous sex. But the reality is that now that abortion is off the table for many women, a lot of women are saying, I'm not going to have sex with, just anyone. And the right was like saying, that's awesome. Sounds great. That's great. It's like now they just need to show up to church, and the right got everything they wanted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just.
I mean, they were also talking about guys getting what's that procedure called?
Vasectomies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. But even then, I don't think like conservative men are running out to get vasectomies. I think it's
No,
more
hell
like,
no. Why?
yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's the conservative the conservative men and the conservative women. They were already kind of doing their own thing. They were already kind of waiting till marriage and having like 10 bazillion children per family. But now the liberal men are like, oh, if I want to sleep with the liberal women, I better get a vasectomy. And the liberal women are like, well, I better be on birth control and I better be on this and I better check. So, well, first of all, you're going to see a lot of liberals not having sex anymore because the reality is all this like background checking is just not conducive to like a sexy time. So, because like how sexy is like, oh, can you verify that you had a vasectomy and that you're wearing a condom and
Wow.
and then also like there's affirmative consent. And so every time you touch a woman, you have to be like, is it okay to touch you? Can I do this again? Can I take off your shirt? Can I and there's nothing sexy about that. Like, sex is supposed to be a lot more intuitive than, it's not supposed to be like you're in a courtroom and asking permission, to do that. So essentially, you're going to have a lot of less liberals having sex, but you're also going to be having liberals not having kids, which again, this is a big discussion because I don't think liberals really need to have kids to like take over the culture because they just go after your kids. That's what like the whole like transing the kids is about. They're trying to take the kids away from the conservatives who have like 10 kids and they're trying to like turn them into the next liberals that way. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could go with this, but essentially, liberalism begets liberalism and conservatism begets conservatism. Liberal policy, like I said, when Colorado voted in, when they made marijuana legal, a lot of people who wanted to smoke marijuana moved to Colorado so they could have their marijuana. And then that resulted in the state becoming more blue. But as you see, when the Supreme Court said, "Hey, we're going to overturn Roe v. Wade and we're going to send abortion back to the states," a lot of states said, "Oh, hey, we're going to do the conservative thing and ban abortion, for the most part." And a lot of women said they don't even know they're making the conservative decision, but they're just like, you know what? If I can't have an abortion whenever I want, I'm just not going to have sex until I know I want to have kids, which is the appropriate thing to do. Right. And before we go on to the next topic, I do feel like it's important to mention a couple of things. Um, this is an article, an analysis made by the Daily Wire. I know we're bringing the Daily Wire up a lot, but they've been very on top of the news recently. And so there's a bunch of disinformation. You'll see a lot of like disingenuous liberal types saying like, oh, if a Roe v. Wade gets overturned, then no one cares about the life of the mother, and the women are going to be forced to take miscarriage babies up to term. None of this is true. For example, ectopic pregnancy. Do you know what ectopic pregnancy is?
No idea.
Okay, so an ectopic pregnancy is allegedly when a woman gets pregnant, but the baby, the fertilized egg, is not inside the womb, and so it's essentially like, imagine like it's almost
That
like
could kill the mother, I heard.
it can very much. So apparently, like a lot of the leftards will say like, oh, we can't have we can't ban normal abortions because now the conservatives will be knuckle dragging idiots and they'll ban ectopic pregnancy
No,
procedures.
because
But
they're definitely not going to ban that.
well, that's the thing. So even the most like even the most pro life people are like, that's not really an abortion. And even, by the way, Planned Parenthood says it's not an abortion. So both the right and the left agree that that's not an abortion. Ectopic pregnancy, and then you also have miscarriages are not illegal. It's very important to point out miscarriages are not going to be legal under a lot of these rules. No one will have a problem with doing that. And there's also a much broader point, which is that when people say like, oh, we want to save the life of the mother, and let's say the mother's life needs to be saved by having an abortion, what they don't understand is that an abortion is a very specific thing and is done very specifically in a very specific way. And I can't imagine a single scenario where the way an abortion is done can save the mother's life as opposed to any other procedure. Which is to say that when you there are reasons why someone might need to separate a mother who's pregnant from the child in the womb to save the mother's life for whatever reason, right? There could be many, many good reasons to do so. But what an abortion is essentially a doctor goes in with like a pair of snippers and like clips first of all, trigger warning. And I do mean this seriously because this is kind of like disturbing information. And thank God we're only a podcast that does sound. We don't do images. But basically from what I understand, when you do an abortion at like Planned Parenthood, you snip the neck of the baby to kill it immediately, and then you like cut out the different pieces. You pull the pieces out piece by piece. Why you're required to do that as opposed to any other form, which would potentially allow the baby to survive, that I don't know. I don't know why specifically we need to do that. I can't imagine a single scenario where you must go into the womb and cut the baby out with scissors. I can't imagine that. So I can understand why you would have to end a pregnancy with surgery, whatever it is. But the way an abortion, what people are talking about in abortion, it's never medically necessary. Like that specific thing, I can't imagine being medically necessary.
You mean when there is no danger?
No, even when there is a danger, the way that abortions are typically performed, I can't imagine that being medically necessary.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
don't.
that.
What?
No, I was saying that like essentially the way abortions are performed is that they cut the baby up inside the womb. Why is
Yeah,
that?
they probably cut the what's the cord?
The
What's it
umbilical
called?
cord?
Yeah, they probably cut
No,
that and
no,
then
that's
take it
not what.
out.
No, that's not what it is. They cut the neck of the baby.
What?
They clip the neck of the baby. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They cut the baby up into little pieces and then they drag it out piece by piece.
That's disgusting.
It's very disgusting. Why anyone would ever need to do that, even if the mother's life is in danger, why it would need to be done that way and not any other
I mean, I
way.
guess it also depends how big the baby is. Like, if it's like, for example, if it's like a big fetus, then I guess it could be hard to take the entire thing out. That's probably
But
why
that's
they
what a
do it.
cesarean section is. What do you think a cesarean section is?
I don't even know what. That's the first time I'm hearing of that, so I have no idea.
C-section? You don't know what a C-section is?
Yes, I know what a C-section is.
Okay, so that's the short version of a cesarean section.
Okay,
Basically, you
fine.
cut the stomach and you pull the baby out. That can be done when the baby's fully formed. So if the baby's too big to come out, like without getting too graphic, you can cut the stomach open, right, and pull the baby out that way, right?
Yeah, but that would require opening up the mother, which might not be necessary. Like, because if you're killing the baby anyways, then you know.
But you don't need to kill the baby. There's a difference between killing the baby and doing something that might end the life of the baby. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you like
Yes, like if you take the entire baby out without cutting it, like there's a chance it can survive.
Right, and perhaps that's more appropriate than cutting up the baby. But we all know that abortion has as much to do with killing the baby and hiding the results of the baby as it does with ending the pregnancy. Why do people typically get abortions?
Because they
Because
don't
it's,
want to take care of a child.
right, but it's also because of the shame of it, right? Because if you have and this is I think part of the reason why like it's so awesome that it's happening, because women are now like, up until now, if let's say a woman with loose morals would have intercourse, right, and she goes and she has the abortion, right, she gets to cover up the fact that she had a baby with someone who she wasn't supposed to be having sex with. There is an element of shame to these types of things, and people forget that shame is a very necessary emotion, right? And so not only do they get to end the pregnancy, but they also get to end the life of the baby, and they get to like kind of sweep the baby under the rug. And now the baby's not like a giant glaring character flaw for that woman. But now the woman has to not only deal with the fact that she might get pregnant, but she also has to deal with the fact that now this baby exists and is proof of her shame that this baby exists. That's why this is so awesome, because it is not only is it the physical consequences of pregnancy, but it's also the spiritual consequences of having to look at a baby created by sin, of knowing that like a woman who has a baby out of wedlock, this is a baby she had and she shouldn't have had, but she has to deal with it. She can't just kill it and like shove it under the rug and pretend it never happened.
Yeah, I hear that. And then there's also the financial implications, which would be another reason.
Right, the financial implications are very important, I would say. And I don't know who needs to hear this. I mean, we are two Jews, so I feel like it's very important to point this out. There's a lot of
Jews.
Two Jews walk into it's the beginning of a joke. But no, seriously, there is a lot of misinformation coming out of the Jewish community, because there's a lot of Jews people don't get this about Jews, that we're also an ethnic group, and so there are people who are Jews, but they don't believe in any single tenet of Judaism and they don't know anything about Judaism. It's not like Christianity where to be a Christian, you need to believe in something. To be Jewish, you need to be part of a nation. You could be a good Jew, you could be a bad Jew, but if you're Jewish, you're Jewish. There's nothing you can do about it. So there's been a lot of people who have been trying to attack the Supreme Court's decision to end Roe v. Wade by saying, oh, the mother's life is important and Christians don't value the mother's life the same way that Judaism does. And so therefore it's some kind of religious liberty issue. But the problem is that they only say this when it has to do with abortion. They never bring this up, for example, when it comes to liberal gun law states that prevent people from owning weapons, despite the fact that in Jewish law, there are many, many situations where someone can enter your house without your permission and you are free to kill them, according to Jewish law. Do these Talmudic scholars that all of a sudden materialized on my Facebook page, do they believe in expanding gun rights so that I can kill invaders in my home? No, they don't, because it's a political thing. It has nothing to do with Judaism. So I feel like that was important to point out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, let's get to the third topic. I think you'll know a little bit more about this topic than the other two topics, but we'll see. Anyways, enough about the moralistic things that have been going on. Enough about Donald Trump. Let's talk about cryptocurrency.
Whoa.
All right,
Economics, finance.
Yeah, that's
money.
your stuff. That's your stuff, Rody. You should know more about this than I do. Hopefully, we'll see. Anyways, so anyone who is paying attention to crypto knows that crypto has been sinking like an anvil.
Like a what?
An anvil.
An anvil?
Yeah, like those things in the cartoons that you drop from like the.
Oh, it's like a big metal thing.
Yeah, and then it hits the guy in the head, and maybe his teeth fly out, and then the birdie's flying around like that, or maybe like it collapses him into the ground, but like he somehow survives. So that's an anvil, right? So cryptocurrency, the value of cryptocurrency has been falling like an anvil, which is to say a lot. Bitcoin's value fell 60% since I believe the beginning of 2022. It's currently sitting under 20,000 USD as of when I wrote the outline.
60%, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I could check the prices now, but I don't think it's above 20,000.
I mean, but that's kind of, predictable because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is very volatile, medium of, currency. So
it was very volatile, but I would have predicted it would have been going up in value as inflation goes up. A lot of people.
Yeah, but the same thing. Look, me personally, if people are worried about Bitcoin going away, because like, oh my God, it's falling. It's not going away anytime soon. That's one. Two, the same thing happened in 2017 when it first went to 20,000, then it fell back down to like 10,000.
I remember that, but I think the circumstances were a bit different, though. I think in that situation, it was a bubble, right?
Yes, it was a bubble, and then people started selling it once they had gains, and then it went back down to 10. You're right. This is probably connected more to the economy, because over the last few years, it's been connecting more to the actual economy and following, the different trends and what's happening with all these different people investing at these banks, big companies, this, that. So it definitely has a more rooted set of roots in what's happening around us. I do feel that way.
Right, but the reality is that if Bitcoin and cryptocurrency more broadly was really this hedge against inflation, then you would think right now Bitcoin prices would be through the roof.
You're right, but at the same time, where is gold? Gold price. I mean, gold is also down. So, I mean, like everything is kind of somewhat down. Maybe not as much as it's also like in the negative. Definitely not as much as it's definitely not down 60%. Don't get me wrong, but the point is that you're right. It is getting. Part of the reason probably is, I mean, one, they said that, what was one of the reasons why they said it fell? It was because there was a defaulted loan.
Yeah, there was a defaulted, because it's kind of like it's a chicken and egg scenario. Which came first? Was it the falling? The reason why this 3 Arrows capital, let me just put a background. On June 27th, Three Arrows Capital 3AC defaulted on a loan from Voyager Digital worth about $350 million in crypto assets. The loan was made up of USD coin and roughly 15,250 BTC. 3AC was a major backer of Terra USD / Luna, the epicenter of last month's stablecoin meltdown. So we see here that that in what happened was essentially is that they defaulted on a loan, but they defaulted on a loan that happened while crypto was melting. So I don't think it's fair to say that it's the same. Like, that's not fair to say.
I mean, there could be multiple reasons. Like, there's could be hundreds of reasons. First of all, because
What if
because
people are taking out the money that they have in cryptocurrency because like people don't have jobs and money's not worth as
first of all, the
much?
economy is getting better in terms of that. So people are probably taking out their money to first of all use. That's one. Second of all, people can be. It could be just a side effect of people saying, "Hey, it's going down. I'm going to sell it because it's going down. Take my profits."
That's
That's
true.
two. Three is inflation, and everything else getting more expensive.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking people would take out their BTC or whatever to make up for certain deficiencies in their lifestyle now that inflation's going through the roof. You know what I mean?
It's also like interest rates. So like interest rates are also very high. So here's the thing: Bitcoin is a very high risk asset. Okay, now when now all these companies now that interest rates are going up, the economy is slowing down. Now when the economy slows down, all these big investors, these institutional investors, the big banks, as well as retail investors, which is like people like us, when interest rates are high, they tend to go to less risky things because the economy is slowing down. That means it's not as volatile, it's not going up. Okay, when interest rates are down, why do we have low interest rates? Because we have low interest rates to speed up the economy. That means more businesses can take out money, and if more businesses are taking out money, they can do more. And if they could do more, then they can make more money. And if they're making more money, the stock market's going to go up. Now, if the stock market's going to go up, people are going to be thinking, hey, the economy is doing well. I'm going to invest in Bitcoin. Even though it's a high risk, the likelihood of it going up is probably very high because the economy is doing well. But now that interest rates are going down, the economy is slowing down because now less people can take out money. Mortgages are up. So they want to put their money in a more safe, even though it's earning them less interest, it's more safe. Does that make sense?
I guess, but to me, that's not. I don't think that's the compelling reason. I think it's because the economy is being squeezed right now. I think a lot of people are feeling the squeeze. So the people who, like, I did this. That's how I know, because from personal experience, I know that when I was having a bit of a tough time, before, dipping into this savings or that savings or calling mom and dad for help, I dipped into the savings I had in crypto.
But you have to look at the way the way it works is supply and demand, and who is the majority of cryptocurrency holders? Someone who doesn't have a lot or someone who does have a lot?
Well, here's the thing. I think that it's a big question because the reality is there's a lot of people who made their wealth in Bitcoin. So just because someone has a lot of money in Bitcoin doesn't mean that, like, just as Elon Musk has a lot of money, but all his money's tied up in like Tesla stock, right? So the same thing here. Like, if someone has a lot of money in Bitcoin, if they bought 15,000 Bitcoins when it was $10, and now they're a Bitcoin bazillionaire, right? Because it was up $60,000, and you have like 15,000 Bitcoin, so 15,000 times 60,000 is too much money, right? But they never took it out because they're like, oh, I'm going to ride the Bitcoin wave. Well, all of a sudden now it's falling, so they have to sell it if they want to keep their money because now they have a different lifestyle.
I mean, I guess I hear that. Just for me, it's I think the majority of cryptocurrency holders are people that can't afford to have their money down. But look, I look at it this way: people are always when people are at least what Warren Buffett said, when people are scared, that's when you buy. And when people are haughty and confident of the market, that's when you sell.
Well,
Okay.
I feel like this is a great point to point. This is a great time to point out that we're not financial advisors, and please don't take anything that we're saying as financial advice. Anyways, but I did want to
Yeah.
ask two questions. I want to say, is there a future for cryptocurrency in the future? And I think you answered that question, at least in your opinion. Do you think there's a future for cryptocurrency? You said pretty much yes, because it's going to bounce
Yeah,
back
look,
eventually.
it's too much of a cultural phenomenon. You need crypto for NFTs and all these different like meta stuff that's happening. So I don't really think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So I wouldn't really worry about it.
I mean, I saw just in my own life, I saw someone opening a Bitcoin transfer, you know, store, as it were. There was a physical storefront where you can exchange Bitcoin for like I guess shekels or whatever. But it was in Jerusalem. It's not like it's not like in New York. It's in Jerusalem. Like who uses Bitcoin in Jerusalem? And the answer is I guess enough people where they felt it was profitable enough to hedge their bets on a physical location for Bitcoin, which is as odd as it sounds. So I don't think it's going anywhere either. But I guess to me the better question is this demonstrates why we need to like get away from this libertarian fantasy of we're only going to have digital currency and the government is not going to have any control over the currency, because when the government has no control, this is what happens: money becomes unreliable. And Bitcoin can be an excellent hedge against inflation, but it cannot replace a stable currency or a relatively stable currency regulated by a government or regulated by the price of gold, or like things like that.
Uh-huh. I mean, I guess. I mean, look, it was made for that purpose.
Right, but so again, I understand the purpose of Bitcoin. I'm saying that purpose is dumb, because as we saw from the Russia Ukraine thing, having your money be tied up in ones and zeros is not a good idea, because then ones and zeros are just code. You could shut down code,
Yeah, but
right?
your money's already like that. When you go to the bank, you have a bank account, and you see it on a screen. It's ones and zeros. It's not physically there.
No, listen, but it's still tied to something real. Like there's still, in theory, you could take out a dot. Like if you have $1,000 in your bank account, you could theoretically go and take your $1,000 and you can go and use $1,000 and you could take it out and it's physical,
Yeah,
right?
but their files are probably all digital. If someone hacks them and wipes out their entire system, it's like, well, then who had what? Because all of our information was backed up online. Look, actually look, if banks are dealing with money, with other people's money, so like I wouldn't be surprised if they had it backed up on disk that wasn't connected to the internet, or even having physical copies. But even so,
Yeah, but there was always like a little bit of fungibility to money. Like even back in the day, there was always more money that existed than in circulation, which is to say that the banks would give out IOU notes, because that's the original type of money, IOU notes. They would give those out knowing that not everyone would use them at once. And that's how the economy worked, right? So whether you have a gold standard or you have a fiat standard or you have a crypto standard, there's always more money that exists than exists in circulation. If that makes any sense, if I said it correctly.
I mean, there is, I guess. I mean, but 80% of money nowadays is online.
Right, but even if you're comparing the US dollar, which is 80% digital, I know exactly what you're talking about. It is 80% digital versus a cryptocurrency. The dollar is at least regulated by a governing board and there are people in charge to make sure it doesn't
No,
fluctuate
the
that
difference
rapidly. And
is the dollar is backed up by the US economy, while Bitcoin is backed up by a belief system.
well, at the risk of sounding like a religious heretic here, I don't believe in Bitcoin, simply because if I can't go into a store and buy my candy bar in Bitcoin, it's not useful to me.
I mean, yeah, but also that it's backed up by the belief. Like, if people stop believing in Bitcoin, it's over. It's like it has no value.
Right, but
While the dollar is backed up by the U.S. economy, and taxpayer dollars.
Right, but I guess you could say all money is based on faith, right? Because even the gold standard, right? You have to have faith.
Look, in the end of the day, what is value? Okay, in the end of
Value
the
is
day,
inherently subjective because if value
exactly.
is objective, then you couldn't go into a store, take $1, and buy a newspaper. Because if there was objective value, then either the dollar would be worth more or the newspaper would be more. But things are worth different things to different people. But the thing that I like about having like a gold standard or even a fiat standard is that there's at least something real beyond faith. It's more than faith, right? There's a system attached to it, right? And the more tangible you make your currency, the less likely it is that overnight it's going to change rapidly in value, or it's going to lose value altogether because people lose faith in it, right? Because if you're on like a standard like the fiat standard, then if you have faith in the American government, then like even if the American government fluctuates a bit here or there, for the most part you can expect the American government to exist for many years. And even more so, the gold standard, even if the American government fails, gold exists, right? That's the beautiful thing about gold.
Yeah, gold is a good hedge against, and it is a good asset, and that's why it still exists.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think that's enough about that topic, and I think that's it.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to our podcast. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. You can find us on YouTube and Rumble. If you want to reach out to us, you can slide into our DMs, and we look forward to seeing you next time.